Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to continue on today looking at a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's special selection comes at us from MRB. Justice is a French electronic music duo. Please watch the music video with the song. It's raw but powerful. So that's what we're going to be checking out today. The song we are looking at is called Stress. So let's dive into this and see what Justice is bringing to the table today. It's starting out pretty noisy. Lots of tension, lots of dissonance. Stress is a good word for this opening. That boom, 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 sitting underneath all of this. Yeah, it almost sounds like channel surfing at times, just kind of flipping between random ideas. At first I couldn't figure out if this stuff is staged or not, but I don't think it is. Dude, this is gonna be... What do I do for this analysis? Well, we come here for musical discussion, right? I suppose we should start with that. I'm going to start on the assumption this is all staged, somehow, one way or another. Maybe not every single moment is staged. They seem to have had candid audiences at times. But for the sake of discussion, I think that viewing this particularly as a video, I think the music does a phenomenal job at soundtracking the footage from a purely objective lens point. There is a lot of high intensity moments in the music that drive forward a type of stress or tension, which I think lines up with the title of the song very well. But even right at the beginning, the build up into the core groove, into the core riff, or what do they call it? Loop? Is that what they call it in electronic music? I got riff for metal, I got lick for jazz, I got ostinato for classical. I was like, what's the electronic equivalent here? I think it's a loop. Um, Even the build up into that, the tones of the notes chosen, the notes themselves, the pitches, the relationships between the pitches, all of this was designed to build tension. It was designed to feel a bit uneasy, both from a sort of darkness and eeriness, but also from a lack of stability. There is no real happiness in here at all. It balances between terror and chaos. And that's really where a lot of the music uh, is emotionally, atmospherically. It resides in that realm. Now, on the tension side of things, we have a lot of the notes chosen. It's all tension. As far as the eeriness, when we pick specific notes, lines of notes, creating melodies, the way that some of these notes flow into each other, some of the harmonies that we have in here as well. A lot of this feels very tense and uneasy and dark. It carries with it an ominous element. It almost at times feels threatening sonically. There's also the general timbre of things, all of it being sort of spiky, very distorted. Some of it maybe even overdriven in a way to create a fuzzy or a buzziness on top of pretty much all of the sounds. Um, when you bring together the way the instruments sound and what they're playing, you get something that just feels very dark overall. The general pacing and idea, the way the ideas flow between each other, we don't really have any contrast from that either. Nothing to pull us away for a moment, give us some levity, a moment to breathe. It's pretty much consistent tension and energy from that perspective. On the other half of the equation, I mentioned um, chaos. We can hear a lot of that all over the place. Many of the melody lines seemingly jump between notes. The intervals themselves seem random, although the notes that are chosen all push into this dark vibe that we have. But no melody really just kind of consists around a single note and just gently moves between pitches. The intervals are all very bouncy, jumping all over the place. Some of our timbres even change mid melody in wild ways. Right there at the beginning, we had the radio switching. Toward the end of the song, we had a literally diegetic radio switching idea where we switched over to music seemingly that was playing in the car, and we didn't return back to the song we were listening to for the whole track until they threw the radio out the window. Um, there's just a lot of moments in here where textures, tones, styles, songs entirely are switched in and reversed and swapped around in ways that no, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It is chaotic, the general flow and pacing of the song, while keeping a static feeling and emotional atmosphere to the song, consistently move in chaotic ways. It is very stressful in almost every way that I would describe stress in music. It is filled with tension on every parameter it can introduce it in, but it doesn't particularly move exclusively in that direction. It is, of course, still palatable esque. It follows general ideas, traditional musical concepts. It aims for tension in the minutiae, but in the larger scheme of things, it is still just an electronic song from start to finish. It has an interesting structure to it, sure, but it never really moves too far away from a unified vibe throughout. The time signature never goes wild. It's not really an experimental track in that perspective. It knows what it knows what it's trying to achieve, and it does that in a semi traditional way. And so, for all of the tension and stress and chaos that is in this song, and I don't want to diminish how that really describes the majority of this track, it isn't doing anything new, and it isn't creating tension through, wild experimental ideas. It is still something that fits within the general idea of what a modern electronic song sounds like in its blueprint. And I find it really interesting that it walks that line so clearly and so fluidly and so finely that it never really dips into either side. It comes off as very safe and yet very dangerous at the same time. And the interesting thing is, it really depends on how you view safe. Is it the opposite of danger, or is it the opposite of experimentation? And it works on both sides. And that's sort of what the song is to me. It is walking between two worlds, existing on both planes, and never really dipping into one or the other 100%. And that allows it to feel one way and exist a different way. But when it comes to a music video like this, I don't feel like I can just let it go. Especially since we don't have lyrics here, I suppose this is going to take the place of where we would normally discuss what the song is trying to say, utilizing the lyrics. Without that, we have the visual language, which I think does tell very clearly in the same way that lyrics tend to be clear in their intentions as well. To me, the song is about rebellion. Combine that with the ideas of stress or tension, it could be, especially since they focus primarily on the youth. Now, granted, this came out 10 years ago. These kids are going to be a bit older now, but they look like they were 13, 14, 15, maybe oldest, possibly 16. I think 16 is going to be a bit old for them, though. They were on the younger side. I think that's specifically supposed to represent a tension that the youth has with growing up in modern culture, and a need to lash out against a world or a culture or a society that is leaving them behind. I on some level I agree with this, and maybe that's why it's the first thing I thought of. There is no such thing as successful peaceful protests. Throughout history, anytime that the disenfranchised have come together in order to make their life better, it's always been through violent revolution. Peaceful protest is a lie that those in power tell us is the morally high ground, the process to achieve a better quality of life through a better moral lens or something. But it's not what history has told us is the way to go. But my problem comes down to the subjects of this video. Or, sorry, the objects of the video, which is just general people who are in the same boiling pot that the kids are in. They're harassing random people who have no power over their situation. I don't know. I'm still not entirely sure if this is staged or candid footage. I'm kind of hoping it is staged because otherwise there's 6 minutes of what I'm going to assume is criminal activity with 6 kids who have clearly put their face in this video, and that just sounds like a really dumb idea. But if you go look on TikTok, people are not even just taking footage of their crimes, but putting this evidence up online for people to find for clout. So the idea of people recording and then broadcasting their criminal activity is just, weirdly enough, that's just the status quo for things these days. But I do hope that there's candid audiences and everybody who was assaulted was in on it. The car was paid for by the people making the video or the record label or somebody, and you know, that's my hope. But I still don't think that the idea behind it is sound. Primarily because the notion seems to be to incite violence against your neighbor, and that's the person you want on your side. I don't know. I'm curious what other people thought about the video. I mean, I'm curious what other people thought about the music as well, but as much as I think the music did right, especially as a soundtrack for this video, which I have no idea how this happened, whether the music was made first or the video was made first with the music in mind or something like that. The music and the video, though, absolutely go together. Regardless of which came first, just a really great synergy of media right there. Right there. But I do feel like the music is a lot less contentious and kind of less interesting to talk about. It's a fine electronic track and it does some stuff really well, but that's what it is. It's a dark electronic track. The music video, I think, is where I'm going to get most of the comments on because it's probably going to be divisive. and it's a conversation starter for sure, where I don't think the music itself so much is. I am kind of curious why I was told to watch the music video alongside it. I certainly understand in a regular sense to check it out, but as a reaction for music analysis, I don't really think it adds anything to the musical conversation, and it certainly distracted me a little bit from the music as I was trying to figure out what was going on. So, interesting choice, MRB. And if you cared to explain yourself, care to explain the decision there to put the video up, I'm all ears. I'm kind of curious what your reasoning was behind that, because I don't know that I would have. I think the video works for a second time listen. I think the video absolutely works for your average music reactor. But for me, yeah, I don't really think it added anything to the analysis conversation in any meaningful way. And it works well with the music, but it's not anything that I think synergizes with the music in an analytical perspective. So I just think it's an interesting choice to have specifically requested that. Those are my thoughts. Justice's Stress. What did you think of this song? Is there anything in here that stood out to you? Anything you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Maybe just have your own thoughts, opinions, and perspectives on it. Put all that stuff down in the comment section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you to this menu right here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. Oh, I forgot to push the button for that. Here's the animation for that. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We're going to continue on with this week's theme. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.